Hi, you've reached Tommy McGee at Tommy Media. Anyway, welcome to my channel. This is about every college major. Every college major is valuable. A lot of people say, well, there's nothing valuable about the college major. Your friends will tell you, your parents will tell you, your family members will all say, oh, that's a worthless degree. Don't go that direction. You don't want to go that one. You don't want to take that one because it'll be a real problem because you'll never be able to get anything and never make any money at it. Well, actually, let's start off with a little joke, okay? The joke is, what do you say to a liberal arts major? I'll have 2 creams and a sugar with my coffee. Well, that is the big joke, and everybody says liberal arts majors never make any money. But, let's pick out just one person out there, that was a liberal arts major. Let's pick out Peter Thiel of PayPal, co-founder of PayPal. Well, I think he's worth a few $1 billion. And what did he do after PayPal? Yeah, he co-founded another company called Palantir, which is a huge company, and it's worth what, 3-4 billion? I think this guy did very well with a liberal arts degree, and he's not alone. Most real business and professional billionaires don't actually start with an actual field such as engineering or biology or chemistry. What do they start with? They start with a liberal arts degree. They start with something very simple. Why? Because the liberal arts degree does something other than make them go in that particular direction. A lot of people in majors never even use their major. Say, well, what do they do with their majors when they're a liberal arts major? Where do you go from liberal arts when you graduate to the world? Amazingly, there's a slew of jobs that you can do that is very important for you to pointing out what they do. And the reason why this is a big deal, okay? Liberal arts majors, those are art majors. Those are political science majors. International relations, the humanities, for culture, for anthropology, for archaeology. These are the liberal arts majors. And you know what? They're huge. And if you have a passion for one particular area that everyone else is telling you don't do it, you should probably do it. The reason why is because those majors are the ones that help you to be creative. The art majors, the humanities majors, the liberal arts, philosophy. So Peter Thiel, he was a philosophy major. Guess what? Philosophy is a liberal arts major. Why is that valuable? Because as a liberal arts major, it helps you to think. It helps you to reason and to figure out how things work. You don't just take things at face value. If you're a mathematics major, then yes, there's going to be things that you may be held back on, but there's a whole host of other things that you can do with a math major, of course, right? And data analytics, insurance. You say, well, why would anybody be in insurance if they're a math major? Well, someone has to calculate how much it costs if someone loses their little pinky. I mean, that's a big deal, but the math majors figure that out, and statistics and probability as to what that value would be. And insurance agents or companies will actually pay out if someone loses a portion of a body. So you have to realize that it's really important to realize that most majors are important. The universities would never have created the major unless it was valuable. And liberal arts majors, for the most part, are the most creative. If you go to a business degree and you study entrepreneurism or entrepreneurship, you're not actually getting, most business people don't actually study entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is very creative, and you don't find yourself normally going that direction if you're going to be an entrepreneur, because the creativity involved in it. Look at people who have dropped out of college, right? Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college, right out of Harvard, and yet he started Facebook, right? Look at Apple Computers. started by Steve Jobs. He was a dropout. He dropped out of Stanford. Yeah, he got into school. He's a brilliant guy. But halfway through school, he decided, man, I'm wasting all this time to doing this stuff. I'm going to go do something else. Well, he took a huge risk. And the reason why is because, yes, he was very sharp. Yes, he was able to create a company with other members of his team. But what did he lose? He lost time growing, learning how to build projects, learning how to do business, learning how to use his creativity. So I'm not saying it's bad for him. I'm just saying a university degree opens up avenues that you wouldn't even have thought possible. I would imagine, for the most part, that what he realized was he was a computer science major, and he decided he wanted to go a completely different area. He wanted to actually build a computer no one had ever used before. And then he created Apple computers. So, I mean, that's really amazing. Can they teach you how to do that in college? Yes, they can. But he wanted to capitalize on his time and take these risks, and that's fine if you want to take those risks. But universities actually prepare you for the world. And there's a great many people who have succeeded all over the world, and they've graduated in fields that they never used. I have a friend who studied anthropology, and you say, well, how successful can you be on an anthropology degree? He studied cultures and he studied humanity. Yeah, but you know what he did? He ended up working in a library. He became the director of a library. You say, well, how much could that pay? It pays more than $100,000 a year. And what does he do for a living? He reads books and he puts them on the shelves. But there's a whole area of intelligence in terms of how to run a library. That's information, right? There's piles of information. And who uses a library these days? Well, actually, a lot of people use the library. There's a great many books in the library that most people aren't aware are there. For instance, you can get the Thomson reference manuals. What are they? The Thomson reference manuals help you to understand every company that is traded in the United States is in the Thomson reference manuals. And you can't see them except in a library. So, it's not like you can just pull it up on your phone. It's not that accessible unless you are paying a fee for it. So it is very valuable to go into the library and study. You say, well, why would anybody want to do that? Well, if you do that, you can create your papers for the university. You can study all sorts of fields that you never knew existed. And there is a host of fields out there. And every single major that is in the universities today are valuable. And they teach you so much information. And you can actually say, okay, I want to go in, I have good math skills, and I love history, but I also love the history of archaeology, and I love the history of art. How do I create one major for all of that? You go to the university, and while you're in the university, you identify to them that you're trying to build something for yourself, some sort of major that you have all your own, and they will help you to identify how to put that major together so that you can use all of these skills that you have. And they won't waste any of them. So it's in your best interest to go ahead and do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And at the same time, you say, well, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, those fields are really phenomenally good. Science, of course, we got, biology, chemistry, physics, there's all these different fields that you can use. Chemistry, biochemistry, and then you're talking about science. You can also use, technology, computer science, computer programming, of course. And then engineering, you're talking about all the different types of engineering out there, and mathematics. That is your STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. But it's in your best interest to use the opportunity to go to the university. If you have a passion for archaeology or for anthropology or for studying information systems that they use in libraries, go for it, because it doesn't mean you're locked in and you'll spend the rest of your life in that field. Most of the time, you don't spend the rest of your life in the field. If you're a liberal arts major, a history major, a political science major, a lot of people say, Well, why would you have studied that? Where are you going to go with that? You can go into international relations. You can go work at the State Department. You can go work in the United Nations. You can go work at all sorts of other fields, including working in the United Nations or working in international business, because that knowledge will get you there, because you'll have this understanding of culture or language, will open up avenues for you to work in other countries, work in other governments. You can go to law school with a liberal arts degree. It's the world is your oyster out there, and there are so many fields, and there's no reason why you shouldn't go after the one that you want. If there is a field at the university, if there is a curriculum at the university that you think is ridiculous, that might be true, but there are electives in your curriculum that you're allowed to take in your curriculum. So one of those electives might be information systems, or it might be political science or history. And you may take one class, just one class in that elective, and may find that you are so enamored with it that that's all you want to study. There's nothing wrong with changing direction in the middle of the university. You're allowed to do that. They want you to do it. It doesn't mean that you're going to spend more money necessarily. In fact, sometimes you're going to spend less money because you'll have already done all of the heavier science or heavier math or engineering, and then you switch over to a liberal arts degree. And then you maybe go to law school, or maybe you decide to go for an MBA. From there, you can go into entrepreneurship, or you can just drop out of school. But it's really great when you're in the university. You get that experience. A lot of people don't get that experience of being at the university, of doing, working with other students, doing other programs with students, doing sports. The university is open. They give you the opportunity to have scholarships, either academically or in sports, athletically. And there's of course football, and there's soccer, and there's tennis. I mean, you name a sport, they're out there. Rugby, field hockey. I mean, there's everything is out there. So there's no reason why you can't go after these things. And the benefit is, this is a transition point. University, when you get out of high school, there's a transition point from that into the world. Now, yes, you can go from high school right into the world, and you have a rude awakening coming, because working through the classes at university help you to think, help you to learn how to think, how to develop as a human being, as someone who will make a huge difference in the world, and it will make a huge difference in your life. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. And there's so many opportunities, not only to hook up with other students who have the same views you have, the same mindset you have, the same direction you have. They may be studying accounting with you. And the curriculum for accounting is a tough curriculum. But if you love accounting, you should just jump at it, because that field will open up all sorts of other avenues. I mean, how do you study to become a chief financial officer? Well, that's accounting. You're going to be most CFOs become they become CFOs through an accounting background. If you're a physics major, where can you go with that? You can become a CEO from a science background. Physicists can become teachers. You don't have to become a teacher. I've met engineers that were physics majors, and they switched fields right in the middle of their degree because they just wanted to do it. I had a friend of mine, he was an English major. He was about to finish English, and he decided to couple it with mathematics. By the time everyone else graduated in their field, he was graduating with a doctorate in mathematics. That's pretty cool. I mean, everyone was really stunned by that. And if you can do that, well, there's no reason why you can't. That's what university is for. And if you get a degree and say, wow, I'd really like to study something else, you can go back to the university to do that. There's nothing holding you back. That's what's so great about going to school, is that you get to learn all of these amazing things, and then you get to use them in your life. That is incredible. And there's so many avenues that you can use that with. I mean, look at all these professional athletes that went to university. They played on a soccer team or a golf team or a football team, then they found themselves in the NFL, or they found themselves playing professional golf. That's exciting. I mean, wow, that I didn't go that direction, but that is a great way to go. And there's nothing wrong with it. And there's so many avenues out there for you to do those things. And they got all these different clubs, and you can be in student government. You can be in, working in volunteering at the local community if you want to do that. That's perfectly fine. And there's so many avenues you can use this for. At the same time, with it, a lot of people are like into music, where you go to the university and you start hanging out with other people who are into music too. And while you're in there, you could end up maybe creating a band together, a jazz band, rock and roll band, classical music band. I mean, I don't know, but there are so many avenues that you can do with that. And you say, well, I took high school and music program, and, I don't know if I want to go that direction. You don't have to. Even if you got a scholarship in music, okay, they're going to want you to go ahead and continue doing that, especially if you're a child prodigy. You're a great musician and you're some sort of a violinist or something. Yeah, there's a huge avenue for that, and there's no reason why you can't go that direction. I met a guy who was a music major. He got accepted to work in a pharmaceutical company, and while there, he got his MBA and switched majors. While he was working there, he got a computer science degree, master's, and became a programmer. I mean, how does that happen? It happens because in university, while you're there, you start to see all sorts of other areas that you could actually develop yourself into. And there's no reason why you can't. There's so many great things. You can take an elective on art. You can it doesn't mean you have to be a great artist. You're learning to push the envelope on those things that you thought that you knew, and you were stepping beyond where you thought you could. That's the benefit of the university. They have electives. You can take an elective on sculpture. You can take an elective on pottery. You can take an elective on woodworking, or you can take an elective on creating abstract or expressionist art, or you can take one on landscape art, or you can do portraits. Whatever it is you're wanting to do, they have classes on these things. It's great. And at the same time, university, a lot of times they'll ask you to take a language. If you already have a second language at home, you can take, if you already are fluent in Spanish, you can take Spanish, and you already speak English, you can take Spanish as a second language, and as a profession, you're going to be obviously very good with Spanish. Or you can take Russian or Chinese or whatever language you want to learn next. There's nothing that says that you can't change direction or add these things literally into your development. And you say, well, how can you do that? How can you take 5 different languages, all these languages, and art and science and engineering and mathematics? How do you put them into one degree? What you do is, at the university, you are all given an advisor, and the advisor is there for you. They are there to help you to figure out what direction you want to go and how you want to go to the next level. Now, you don't have to, once you graduate, you can just take off, but there are avenues where you can go and you can stay at the university and continue to develop yourself. Whether you get a doctorate or you go into medicine or wherever. Me personally, when I looked at Steve Jobs, and he had left the university and he wanted to start a company of his own, and he did. He started a company of his own. In my personal view, I think that he actually missed out, because if he really was a genius, which all of us say, okay, Steve Jobs definitely a genius, right? We know this. He could have done so much more had he stayed at the university. Why would he do that? Because it develops your mind. All of these different electives and engineering and science builds you into more of what you could possibly be. And each time you do this, you take another class, you take another elective, you find that you're learning different ways to go in your field of study, and these things, you build into your life. And each time you build further into your life, you open up avenues that you never even thought were possible. And that's why engineering or science or liberal arts are still just as valuable as all of the other fields out there. There are no fields out there that are worthless. There are none. A university created them for a reason. They didn't just come up with them and then throw them out there for anybody. They came up with things that you're going to learn in each of those fields and make yourself more valuable in the long run. This is the benefit of doing these things. And I always want to encourage you to hit that like button and say that you like the video, and you're going to get more in the future. And if you want me to go a different direction, give me a comment. Love to hear from you. And I just thank you for being here on this YouTube. And I just can't wait to hear your comments. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Go, 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 universities. Okay, bye.